Good evening. Welcome to the class on Upanishadic meditation. And we will start with our opening peace chant. We can chant it together. There's a couple more sheets here if you want to take. And I guess maybe I should have printed out one or two more, but that'll help us to chant together. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitam Astu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we be protected together. Let's read the translation also together. May we be protected together. May we be nourished together. May we acquire strength together. May our learning shine forth in our lives. May we not cavil at each other. Peace, peace, peace. Usually I translate it as, may we not find fault with one another. This idea that this is actually a prayer for the disciple and the teacher, the guru, to pray together before they begin their study of Vedanta. That first of all, we are in this together. The Vedanta is always found in the context of a guru-disciple relationship, and a teacher transmits the wisdom to the student. And we find the Upanishads are very often conversations between a guru and a disciple. And the Upanishad we're using tonight, the Kena Upanishad, that also is the same. It begins with the disciple asking a question, and then the teacher explaining it. Actually, giving an answer which is not explaining it, which is pointing the disciple towards grasping, towards realizing the truth. And so this class, as I think most of you have attended before, know, the idea behind this class is that we take a selected verse of the Upanishad and we read it, we study it, and then we meditate on it. So we'll have periods of meditation in this class, short ones, 5 minutes, on a particular verse to try to grasp, try to touch that which the verse is indicating, that which is our true nature, Brahman or Atman, infinite consciousness and bliss. That's what the teacher is trying to guide the disciple to realize, and then of course has been passed down through generations of teachers, of realized souls, and the power of their realization is embedded in the mantras themselves. So it's a very powerful practice to take these verses and then meditate on them. And we know that what's the system of jnana yoga, of the yoga of wisdom? There are these 3 stages. What are the 3 stages? Pop quiz. 1, Shravana. Okay, good. What does it mean? Listening. Okay, we listen. We hear about the truth, or in our case, we read about the absolute reality, the truth of who we are in an Upanishad, or we hear it from an illumined teacher. We hear it. What's the second stage? Manana. What does it mean? Okay, think about it, reflect, contemplate. We can, various doubts may arise in our minds about it. That, is this really true? And then maybe some discussion, some thinking. Settle those doubts. It's a practice of strengthening our faith, making our conviction very firm, so that we have the conviction that, yes, what the scriptures say, what the teacher is telling me is true, and what is more, I have the capacity to realize it. That is most important. That is the most important aspect of this Shraddha, that it's not just something for me to understand intellectually. I can actually realize this. I have the potential to attain freedom and infinite bliss, to realize that that is my true nature. I can do that. That's part of this Shraddha, this faith. This Shraddha, which is weakly translated as faith, which is something like an attitude of conviction which guides our whole life and attention, and turns our whole life towards the divine, towards realizing our true nature. With that faith in ourselves also, that yes, I too can realize this. It's not just something to read about, but something to experience directly, to realize. And then, what's the third stage? Nididhyasana, which means meditate. It's what kind of meditation? Ordinarily, when we meditate in our own spiritual practice, we are taught generally to hold on to our chosen ideal, which is, of course, manifestation of the infinite, of Brahman, who is none other than the infinite Brahman, but generally with a form, with a person, maybe meditating on an incarnation, an avatar, or on a deity, and also perhaps repeating the name of that deity, and that becomes our chosen ideal. All our energy is focused towards our chosen ideal. Now, Nididhyasana is a little different. It doesn't mean meditation like that, where we direct the mind towards an object of meditation. And because we've chosen the highest object of meditation we can, means the manifestation of infinite consciousness in this world, the purest, most perfect manifestation, our chosen ideal, God, as it were, it leads us to realization. But this is a different kind of meditation. We're not focusing the mind on something. We are, as it were, taking the teaching of the Upanishad and letting it reveal the truth. So the mind has to fall away, actually. And that's what the verses, what the mantras are guiding us to do, to let the mind fall away and let the truth stand revealed. So it's a different kind of meditation. Maybe we can take that up more in depth in a future class. What exactly does that meditation mean? But let's, of course, we'll try it. I'd like to also chant the second beautiful peace chant, which is a part of the Upanishad. And let's chant it together. Om Apyayantu mamangani Vak pranashchakshushrotram atho balamindriyani cha sarvani Sarvam brahmaupanishadam Maham brahma nirakuryam Ma brahma nirakarot Anirakaranam astu Anirakaranam meastu Tadatmani nirateya upanishatsu dharmas te mai santu Te mai santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's read the translation together. Om. May the different parts of my body, my tongue, prana, eyes, ears, and my strength, and also all the other sense organs be nourished. All indeed is Brahman, as is declared in the Upanishads. May I never deny Brahman. May Brahman never deny me. May there never be denial on the part of Brahman. May there never be denial on my part. May all the virtues described in the Upanishads belong to me who am devoted to Brahman. Yea, May they all belong to me. Om, peace, peace, peace. This, if you recall last time, the Upanishad specifically is working with the sense organs, and so it's interesting that it begins with this prayer, or may those organs of action and of sense and action, like the tongue, the eyes, and the ears, may they be nourished, may they be not be defective, may they perceive correctly. And yet, of course, then the Upanishad goes on to say that actually it's not the eye that sees, it's the eye of the eye. It is the presence of infinite consciousness that through which, it is through our true nature, which is consciousness, that we see, and not through this physical organ. So I think we can, rather than jump right to last time we did the first 3 verses, I think rather than jump right to the 4th verse, let's review those 3 verses. And the Upanishad begins with a wonderful question, the disciple who's curious. And that curiosity is important. That spirit of seeking is actually essential in spiritual life. Otherwise, why would we be here? We want to know, we want to attain to freedom. So, in fact, that is the 4th of the pillars of spiritual practice in the path of Jnana Yoga. What are those 4 pillars? Pop quiz number 2. The 4 pillars of spiritual practice. No, we're talking about within the path of Jnana Yoga, the 4 pillars. It's called sadhana chatushtaya. Okay, we're starting. Okay, take them. Viveka is number 1. Okay, what does that mean?
The real, the difference, the real.
The real?
And the unreal.
And the unreal, what about them?
About that, the real alone is real.
The real alone is real?
Brahman alone is real?
Brahman alone is real. So it's an attitude of discernment, that we apply our discernment to see that everything is impermanent, and we want to find the permanent, and we find that everything in this world is impermanent. And that leads to, now you already know everything, let's pop quiz some of the others. So that viveka, that practice of discernment, of seeing what is eternal, what is unchanging, trying to find that leads automatically to the 2nd pillar, which is? Vairagya. Okay, vairagya means? To renounce the unreal. We can call it detachment. It leads automatically to a detachment because we find a defect in everything in this world. We find that everything has this defect of being changing and impermanent and unable to give us lasting, unalloyed joy. So we gain detachment from it. We're not interested in that. We want to find the unchanging. So it's naturally. And then the third pillar, is anyone else? Aside from those who already know? Okay, very good. Those are, what are those? Shama, Dhamma, Titiksha, Shraddha, Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, and Samadhana. Good. So we together we figured it out. These are 6 qualities. It's considered 1 pillar, but it's 6 qualities. And what are they? Shama, tranquility, a tranquil mind. Dhamma, we are beginning to attain some mastery over our organs, over our thoughts, over our the eyes that always want to see everything. We're learning to guide the eyes. The ear, we're learning to guide the ear. So then uparati. withdrawing. We were withdrawing and turning within, closing the eyes, turning within. Uparati. Titiksha. This is a tough one. This is bearing all difficulties without complaint. And without struggling to overcome them. Something is annoying us, and rather than trying to fix everything in this world so that everything is all right, it means just bearing with it. It's a tough one. Diksha. Then, Shraddha we've already discussed. Samadhana, concentration. Okay, these are all disciplines which we're already practicing in Vedanta, and these are just pointed out that these are really important qualities for us to cultivate if we're serious about attaining realization. And then the fourth pillar, mumukshutva. Good. Mumukshutva means longing for moksha, to be longing for liberation. This is, according to Sri Ramakrishna, the essential ingredient in spiritual life. If we don't have any of the others, if we have this longing, if we have this longing for God, longing for getting free, longing for realization, then everything else will fall into place. It's that longing which actually fuels our spiritual life, which drives our spiritual life. So it's, if anything, it's the essential ingredient, and the others will fall into place if that's there. Because if that's there, then automatically we try for those. So it's a good thing to learn how to maintain that intensity of longing. And what's the story that Sri Ramakrishna used to use all the time to demonstrate what is that longing like? It's a very simple story of a guru and a disciple. What happens? Got it? The guru, well, almost drowns the disciple. All right. The disciple says, well, but what kind of longing do I need to realize God? And the guru says, yes, I'll show you. And so they go for their bath in the pond or the river, as the story may go, it doesn't matter. In the body of water, they go to bathe in the Indian style. And so as they're dunking under, as they're dipping under, the guru suddenly pushes the disciple's head down, keeps it down under the water. And he's a strong man. The disciple's struggling to get up. He can't come up. He's struggling for breath. He's starting to shake, and finally, Guru lets him up. Well, my son, how did you feel? I was dying for a breath of air. Just so. When you long for God like that, then you will realize Him. That idea, that intensity, that it's like Shankaracharya gives the example of what? Like a person whose hair has caught on fire and is running towards a body of water to extinguish it. That kind of intensity. So, great. We have covered those. So that seeking, mumukshutva, that's how we got off on this tangent. Okay, we'd better have our first meditation pretty soon. Let's quickly review the first 3 verses. The disciple asks, well, who is it? This is where the Upanishad gets its name, Kena, because Kena means by whom. So by whom? Who impels the mind to alight on its objects? And joined by whom does the vital force, the prana, proceed to function? At whose behest do people speak? What intelligence directs the eyes and ears? What is behind this? Who basically asking, who am I really? Who is doing all these things? And the teacher replies in that beautiful verse, which is it's in poetic language, because some words are not enough to express. So it's pointing at that idea that shrotrasya shrotram, the ear of the ear, the manaso manoyat, the mind of the mind, the vacho havacham, the speech of the speech, pranasya pranaha, the prana, the life breath of the life breath, chakshushash chakshuhu, the eye of the eye. It is this. which you're asking about. It's that supreme self, the highest reality, which enables you to speak, enables you to see, enables you to hear. It is that consciousness. And this is a hint. By mentioning all these sense organs, we see a hint. It's not when I see. Who is really seeing? What is really enabling that sight? When I see an image, where is that image? I see you in front of me. I see a person sitting with a white chadar around his shoulders and his head is bent. And how am I seeing? How am I seeing you? How are you seeing me? Where is that image? I'm seeing you, well, you're out there, but where actually is that happening? It's happening somewhere in here. I am aware of you sitting there. That awareness. That's the eye of the eye, is the awareness. Because there's the physical eye, and then there's the organ in the brain, and then it is presented to consciousness. That consciousness is how this experience of seeing is even possible. So that's what he's pointing at here. And then he goes on to say, he or it could be she, we don't know. It doesn't. The guru is not named here, and neither is the disciple named. Ancient conversation goes on to say that the wise person separates from the sight, separates consciousness, from the hearing, separates, makes a separation, and rises out of the sense life, and amrita bhavanti. Such people, the wise people, they become amrita, immortal. That means they realize their true nature, which is unchanging. Because this is mortal. This body is mortal, the mind is mortal, all changing. It has a beginning and an end. But our true nature is undying. And we attain that when we touch that which is the ear of the ear and the eye of the eye. So maybe we should take that much as our first meditation. This discussion we've taken so far, can we grasp all of it, hold all of it in our thought and take 5 minutes? Do you want to chant? Shall we chant this first answer of the teacher? Let's chant that. That's the second verse. Shrotrasya shrotram. Now you repeat after me. Shrotrasya shrotram. Manaso manoyat. Vachoha vacham. Sa upranasya pranaha. Chakshushash chakshuhu. Atimuchya dhiraha. Pretyasmad lokat. Amrita bhavanti. That which is the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind, the speech of the speech, and is again the prana of the prana and the eye of the eye. That is that. And atimuchya, having relinquished. the wise people, us, rise above this world and attain immortality. It's very subtle. That's why we have this the subtler than the subtlest idea that the divine, the reality of who we are is subtler than the subtlest, because it takes this subtlety, which is why these 6 qualities are which we discussed as the third pillar of seeking are to be cultivated for us to really have begin to go deeply in this kind of meditation. Those are important qualities to develop. But I personally love this kind of practice. Yes, Krishna.
Is it second class?
Today is this, well, we've been doing this for a while off and on. This is the second class in which we are taking the Koans Upanishad. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's no translation here either. I didn't put it in the handout. I only put the Sanskrit for helping the chanting. We'll have to do that for next time. We'll put the translation in. It's a good plan. All right. Let's. Let's go to the 4th verse. In the 3rd verse, the teacher tells the disciple, and we took that up last week also, that the I does not go there, nor speech, nor the mind. And interesting, the teacher says, therefore we do not know it, nor do we know any process of instructing about it. And this, I think, was the last verse we took up last time. This idea that our physical organs cannot take us to realize our true nature. They're always pointing outwards. We need to trace them back, trace back the experiences of sight and hearing and taste and experience of speaking and acting, trace it back to its source. And that's how we find. And this is a surprising thing that the teacher says, we do not know it. But I thought that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to know it. How is it that we don't know it? Well, because the word to know implies an object or an idea, something external to us which we grasp, which we know. We know. I know this book. I hold it. I read it. I know it. It's a thing apart from me. But this is backwards. Actually, we are the subject, and to grasp the subject, it's not something that we can just know. So the word knowledge, though we often say someone who knows Brahman, a Brahmajnani, one who knows the truth, like that. Actually, the term to know is a little bit deceptive because it's not knowing in the sense that we know anything else. It's that's why the more correct term maybe is to realize. And yet words are not going to point us, it's beyond words, it's beyond mind and speech. So it's only a pointing. And it is said that it's to be, the wisdom, the knowledge is transmitted by the grace of the Guru. That's why we do not know how to instruct, teach you about it. Why? Well, because actually it's beyond teaching. It's a kind of a pointing, and then there's also the question of grace. And the teacher's grace, the realized teacher's grace. Now that grace is flowing, I believe that grace is flowing through these mantras and through our spiritual lineage also, from Sri Ramakrishna and through his teachers. It goes way back, and this next verse talks about that very point. So let's look at this 4th verse. Anyadeva tat viditat atho aviditat adhi iti shushruma purvesham yenastad vyachachakshire. Okay, this is a beautiful verse. Anyat eva tat. Anyat, it is different. Eva, it is verily different. It is truly different from viditat, from the known, that which we know. So this is continuing that idea of if we know something that is an object, it's different from that. And then it says, ato, also, aviditat. It is from the unknown, it is also different. It is actually adhi, which means a superior. It is actually superior to the unknown. So if it's different from known, well then what's different from known? Unknown. So no, it's also different from unknown. It's superior to unknown. So it is beyond this duality of knowing something or not knowing something. It's beyond that. And then this fascinating line which comes again and again in the Upanishads, iti shushruma purvesham ye nastad vyachachakshire. Iti, thus, shushruma, we have heard, purvesham, from the ancient ones, ye, who, naha, nastad, who, to explained that to us. Vyachachakshire explained it. So thus we have heard from our teachers, thus we have heard, so this is acknowledging that tradition of Guru Parampara, this tradition of handing down the truth from Guru to disciple, and they can count back. It is said that the Sufis can trace their lineage back to the Prophet Muhammad. They are, of course, in the Islamic tradition, they go back and they can count their teachers and the teachers all the way back to the Prophet Muhammad. Our tradition, I think we can also trace the lineage of teachers back to Shankaracharya in the non-dual tradition. And then it said it goes all the way back to the Lord himself, through Narayana himself, the Guru Parampara. So it's a wonderful to remember that, and that can even form a part of our preparatory meditation, to remember the line of teachers who we have had, and that it's a wisdom which is passed, it's a living wisdom which is passed from guru to disciple, and through the powerful teachings of the scriptures as we have here. So there's actually two parts to this mantra. The part which tries to point to us that our true nature, that reality, is not known, nor is it unknown. It is beyond both known and unknown. And then the second part, which is pointing out this Guru Parampara, this wisdom is transmitted through the line of teachers to ancient times. All right, so let's take this, let's chant it a couple of times, and then we take this for our meditation. And we can either take we can take both parts. In some ways, the second part goes first, doesn't it? When we're going to meditate this side, first we remember the teachers who are going back into ancient history, and then to realize that it's not something known and it's beyond something unknown. Anyadeva tat viditat ato aviditat adhi iti shushruma purvesham yenastad vyachachakshire anyadeva tat viditat ato aviditat adhi iti shushruma purvesham yena stadvyacha chakshire. Now together the whole verse. Anyadeva tat viditat atho aviditat adhi iti shushruma purvesham yena stadvyacha chakshire. Again. Anyadeva tat viditat atho aviditat adhi iti shushruma purvesham yena stadvyacha chakshire. Anyadeva tad viditat atho aviditat adhi iti shushruma purvesham yena stadvyacha chakshire. That is surely different from the known, and it is beyond the unknown. Thus we have heard from the ancients who explained it to us. struck me that this may have some parallels in Zen Buddhism, and when meditators are given a koan, which is some kind of paradoxical idea or paradoxical statement. Here we have something which, at least to our rational minds, is paradoxical. We are asked to understand that supreme reality is beyond, it is different from what is known, and yet it is also beyond what is unknown. It's neither known nor unknown. How can something be neither known nor unknown? So in Zen Buddhism, the seeker is given some kind of logical quandary like this, like, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Well, there can either be a sound of one hand clapping. So, and the idea is to go beyond the rational mind. It's the mind is that which obstructs, or we get caught in our thinking, and actually that which is beyond thought. That's it. Yeah.
Isn't that I can't not know, and at the same time I can't not. The two parts of it. I'm trying to make it clear. It says that I cannot know is not an object that I can know, Brahman, right?
Or you can't know. It's not an object you can know. Yes.
And
Yeah.
at the same time,
It's not something that's known. It's different from something that's known, and it's different from something that's unknown.
unknown. Some of this is not also unknown.
It's not unknown. So it doesn't really make sense. Because it's this idea of knowledge, it always implies a subject and an object. That I am one thing, and that which I know is another thing, and that's a duality. And here it's the subject. But when we think of subject, ordinarily we think of my body and my mind, and so that's still not me. That's the true me. That's the false me, which then we come to that was Ramana Maharshi's method of asking, who then am I? Maybe we should take that for our last period of meditation. This was his instruction, which is really right along the line of this Upanishad. He would say, well, who is, if someone would ask him a question, he would say, well, who's asking the question? Someone would ask some philosophical question, well, Atman, if you know, as we're asking these kind of, even this question you would have asked, he would have said, who is asking the question? Trace it back. Trace it back. Who is asking the question? Who am I actually? And if all these ideas come up, naturally, those have, again, then one has to ask, well, to whom are these ideas arising? Who is thinking these thoughts? Oh, well, I'm not this body. Well, who's thinking I'm not this body? Who is who? And trace it back. And then, according to his system, one discovers that there is no separate I who is separate, and it dissolves. If you go on asking the question, the I dissolves, and that which is remains. So that's was his method. And people would get frustrated. They would come with these questions and they want the answer, and he would answer with a question. But it wasn't facetious. He wasn't trying to annoy people. He was trying to guide them to actually realize you're asking the wrong question. It's not an intellectual thing to be grasped. It's an experience to be realized. And of course, in a presence of an illumined sage like Ramana Maharshi, if we are ready for it, that understanding, that realization can arise right there, because it's right here. It's always available to us. Only we get in the way. So this asking of, maybe we can take that as this third, because it's right along this line, and we can take a little digression from the Upanishad and take this idea of who am I?
The fifth verse?
No, we're taking a digression. We just chanted the fourth and studied it. And now, because we're also out of time, rather than chanting another verse, we'll have a final meditation, and we'll take this idea of
Who's meditating?
who is meditating. when we think of our body, well, where are we thinking of the body? Who is thinking of the body? Then who is saying that I am not the body? Then to whom are these thoughts arising? Who is thinking these thoughts? Who is asking this question? So this is the topic of our this meditation. We'll take this idea of who, which is really how the Upanishad starts also, right? The disciples asking the teacher, who is it that guides the mind? So let us take this then as but in an intense way. Let us take it up intensely, not idly, but really try to trace it. So sit up straight. No dozing. Sit up straight. Who is sitting up straight? Who is asking the question? Who am I? Who is asking? Who is thinking? To whom are these thoughts arising? Sri Ramakrishna used to give the example of an onion, right? If you peel an onion and you keep peeling and you keep peeling and you keep peeling and you keep peeling, what do you end up with? Nothing left. Whose leg is hurting? Whose leg is falling asleep?
Please ask the question.
Yeah. Any comments or questions?
I don't know. For some reason, OMI didn't really work.
Who am I didn't work for you, huh?
The earlier one was.
It's then maybe that's not for you. Actually, you can recite this. I mean, and I agree that in the mood of this class, the mantras are wonderful, and they have if you can sort of remember a line. When I was asking who am I, this line kept coming up. This word kept coming. Keneshitam. By whose will? Keneshitam. Then it goes back to the mantra of the Upanishad. Maybe that would have been, to do this properly, we should have taken the first line of that mantra.
Exercise reminds me of the opposite. I know this is very random association, but if you've ever seen, watching TV, and there's a TV on the TV show, and on that TV show is the same TV show. If you have, sort of like the opposite of that, like infinite sort of progression. I think there's like a scene in a particular Muppet movie where there's like, it's them on the TV, which is capturing in the screen the TV where they are on the TV.
So it goes on in infinitely, the TV on the TV. Okay.
Opposite direction.
Opposite directions. You take it back.
How many watchers of the TV?
Such a nice day.
Thank you. This is really a glimpse. Swami Turiyananda said, take a verse of the Upanishad and live it for days, and live until it reveals its truth to you. And that's how he studied the Upanishads, and he committed several Upanishads to memory by taking each verse and just diving into it and taking it and living it, and trying to embody it. And of course, he was an illumined saint, illumined soul, powerful teacher who came to this country, and also came to Los Angeles. He spent the most time in Northern California in Shanti Ashrama, and it's worth a pilgrimage to that place. So I think we can close now with our prayer. We chant it together, those of us who know it. I'm sorry it's not on the sheet. The Asato Masad Gamaya, most of you know it. Om Asato Masad Gamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotir Gamaya Mrityor Ma Mritang Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. From the unreal, lead us to the real. From darkness, lead us unto light. From death, lead us to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. There's a question online. Do we have time? It's 8:38. What's the question?
It's, can one have monistic philosophical outlook of being the sugar, the one, yet slip back and forth from that to a devotional relationship? Can jnana and bhakti?
Oh, a question about jnana and bhakti? Of course. We have the example of Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda right in front of us, who embodied both. But generally, in a seeker's life, there will be one primary attitude. It may be primarily an attitude of devotion, or primarily an attitude of this jnana, of this Advaitic approach, of this non-dualistic approach. And of course, there are some who are extreme. They will be only Advaita. I asked Swami Swahanandaji once, the former head of this center, the previous head of the center, I should say, and who was my teacher. And I asked him, because he used to speak in a rather, he was a philosophical type, and I felt like he was a jnani more than a bhakta. And so I asked him, so in the time of your sadhana, when you were doing those intensive spiritual practices, were you mostly practicing jnana? And he said, yes, for some time that was the primary attitude. But with devotion, of course. So the primary attitude is jnana, but with devotion. If you get one-sided, you can get, it can be difficult. We can get too dry. If we're only analyzing and like that, there's a risk of drying up. Only devotional, a risk of fanaticism. So that's why, our tradition offers this blending of the approaches of jnana and bhakti. But if you're really serious about jnana, then you take this up and live it and meditate in this way. We're doing 5-minute meditations. We start there. Let's start with 5 minutes, and then we can take it to 10 minutes and 20 minutes and start to let it fill our whole lives. Thank you very much for coming. It's an inspiration for me to share these ideas with you, and if you hadn't come, then I wouldn't get the inspiration to share. Who would I share them with? So thank you.